rules on pubs and bars. As I say, 46 days until you can sit outside in a pub garden. Martin Greenhow owns 5 bars, including one in Harrogate and another in Leeds. Morning, Martin.
Good morning, Georgie.
And welcome to the show, John Pybus, who runs the Bluebell, one of the smallest pubs in York. Morning, John.
Morning, Georgie.
So, if I start with you, Martin, can you open in April? Have you got the facility?
It's not quite as simple as that. We of our 5 units, we have 2 with some very modest outdoor areas. It's something we're evaluating at the moment because, as I'm sure you can appreciate, there's a cost to opening and there's a cost to bringing staff back from furlough. And at the end of the day, we're in the north of England, we're not in the Caribbean, so it depends what the weather does to us. So we're a little bit on the fence at the moment. I think we're going to give it a go. We've swayed backwards and forwards on it, but I think we're going to give it a go. But, there's quite a chasm between now and then anyway, of challenges for people to meet in our industry. There's a huge amount of debt being built up. We've got multiple issues that still require the government to deal with, not least of all the business rates, which it's looking like they're going to continue. But thank God for that, because quite frankly, business rates are a tax for using property as a business, and we've not been allowed to do that. So quite how you could charge it is a mystery to me. But we've also got a situation where lots of people in our industry very early on in this crisis borrowed huge sums of money using the CBIL loans and using the bounce back loans, and they're getting pretty close to start needing repaying, and we've still not been allowed to reopen the doors. So I would call upon the government to be looking at deferring that. To be honest, I call upon the government to be looking at loan forgiveness, because at the end of the day, if you imagine we come to your house and we tell you can't live there anymore, but you're going to have to keep paying the mortgage and you're going to have to keep paying the bills and find somewhere else to live, but go borrow the money to do all that, please. That's effectively what's been done to hospitality.
A very stressful time, Martin, incredibly stressful for you. And John, at the Bluebell, one of the smallest pubs in York, what's the situation like for you? Are you able to do a reopening on the 12th and serve people outside?
Hopefully, is the answer to that one. I'd like to echo what Martin said, however, that it is a very, very tough financial situation for everyone in the licensed trade at the moment. As a result of that, we are trying to. We don't have a beer garden at the Bluebell, but we have been granted a cafe pavement licence, and we bought some outdoor furniture. And restrictions allowing, we will be doing some sort of opening outside. However, we're unsure at the moment, because it is all been data driven, as to how many people we can have outside, how many households they can belong to, and that sort of thing. So we are really waiting on the legislation to be sort of finalised and passed down to us.
And it's a question of safety, isn't it, as well? Because even though we have these dates, it doesn't mean that we can then just relax the face mask, hands, face, space, can we, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that the licensed trade has been very good at, and I'm very proud of everyone who worked so hard over 2020, is we've been following the letter of the law in the vast majority of cases very, very well. The track and trace system, which we had in place months before the government had one in place, worked. And pubs were shown to be a relatively safe place to socialise if we all followed the rules. So safety is paramount, but it's a big part of this health versus wealth debate, which I think we're going to be going through as a nation soon.
Here's the thing, and you've mentioned it, Martin, these loans, as you say, you're going to have to start trying to pay them back, and you would like what you say is a loan forgiveness. A lot of pubs haven't been able to reopen before, when we were allowed to, in between lockdowns, where, it was too expensive to actually open.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fundamentals of things, when we looked at the restrictions, and I'm not complaining about the vast majority of the restrictions, as John was saying, and you know what, I have to agree with him 100%. I'm incredibly proud of hospitality. I think we did an incredible job, and the data supports that. We did not drive infection. But what we did was we took our instructions, we reduced capacity, we introduced methodologies to ensure people were safe and secure. But what that effectively meant for most people is a reduction in your operating capacity of something like on average 60%. That's certainly what it meant for my units. Of course, then we went into the tiers and we went into the curfew, which was yet another devastating hammer blow. You took away, for my business, you took away 60% of your trading time. And we very quickly started looking at units which we just had to close, even though we had some hours to operate in. It just wasn't feasible. Businesses are living, breathing fiscal entities. And if you cut off their oxygen and you cut off their food, which is effectively what was done, they wither and die. So then you are just living on borrowed money. And when that's come about, because you've done, in essence, your duty to the country to stand down and wait for the trouble to pass, it seems wholly unjust to then ask those businesses, those individuals, and remember, businesses are owned by people, that these are families with children and roofs to keep overhead, to have to borrow, into the millions of pounds that mortgages their future. As I say, I find it a very unjust situation to put us in.
We know that there is no curfew this time round, but I'm just thinking in terms of you have to think ahead. And John, in terms of ordering, stock, when can you start doing that with a view to opening on the 12th, which might happen data depending?
Well, we're going to be leaving it as late as we can, because it's not just about ordering stock. And this is something that the licensed industry has suffered with coming into and out of the tiered system last year. And that is that it takes a long time to brew beer. You're looking at around about 3 weeks just to get the beer from water into a cask. So I'm presuming, I've spoken to a few brewers and they're all very, very busy at the moment trying to keep up with the demand that's going to be coming. But yeah, hopefully the beginning of April we'll be able to get some beer in. But at the moment, I'd like to say that the licensed trade and everybody that works in it is at their lowest that they've been for forever, to be honest. I've never seen the trade like this. However, even though we are at our lowest, it is up to us as publicans and as bar staff to drag this nation out of the emotional depression that it's found itself in. And I'm very much looking forward to being at the forefront of making everyone happier in 2021.
Oh, John, I think probably, Martin, you'll reiterate that as well. It would be good to welcome people through your doors.
I can't reiterate it enough. It's amazing to hear John say that. I speak to a lot of people in our industry. We're a fairly gregarious bunch, as you can imagine. So we talk.
You don't say.
Yeah, and normally, these are really passionate people. They're full of energy. They're full of the joy of life. And over, I think, probably the last 6 months particularly, you've just seen people ground down, and people at a very, very low ebb. And that's always very difficult to deal with. But, you can hear it in John's voice. He's up for the fight. We're up for the fight. We want to get back out there. We want to get back to serving the great British public, to get rid of the soul-destroying mundanity that we've all been going through for the past few months, particularly in the winter. It's a miserable time at the best of times. And, let's get back to it. Let's put a smile back on people's faces. We can do that.
Martin, good to have you on the show this morning. Martin Greenhow, he owns 5 bars, including one in Harrogate and another in Leeds. And also to John Pybus this morning, who runs the Bluebell, one of the smallest pubs in York. If you've got something to say on